October is here, and spooky season is upon us, and I thought I would do something I don't normally do, and that's make a video recommending different games to you. If you are looking for something to fit the mood, fit the season, if you want something to cozy up with, or, just generally spooky vibes, I'm here to give you some game recommendations across many years, many eras. One thing I will mention, I'm not recommending outright horror games here. They can also be fun, obviously, for October, but I've never been a huge horror game fan, personally speaking, so my recommendations are just going to be more vibes-based, if you know what I mean. They're also kind of going to be based on games I've been playing lately, which I just happen to gravitate towards because of the season, and I just think they've all fit it so splendidly. So yes, this is kind of a booktube approach to video games. Let's get on with it. Firstly, I would like to recommend to you Batman Arkham Asylum, which I have tried to get into several times, and I'm happy to report I think I finally am starting to appreciate this game. I'm starting to get fully invested in it. It's clicking with me, and it is the perfect game for this season. It's a very famous game, but if you have never heard of it, I'm just going to assume you know what Batman is. It is a game where you play as Batman, and it is set entirely on the island of Arkham Asylum, and so you've got kind of like the spooky asylum vibes going on. You're going down corridors, which, you get what I'm getting at here. The game just oozes spooky and creepy and October, and there's also just an absolutely fantastic segment I just played through with Scarecrow, who is a villain in Batman lore, who incites hallucinogenic visions of people's worst fears, and it was really cool to play through one of those. It's not a horror game, although I have been jump scared a couple of times by Riddler gifts, but it is very atmospheric, and I haven't played other games in this series like Arkham City, Origins, or Knight, but I know they're more open-world Gotham in general, and I don't know if they would retain as much of the spooky vibes as just a game set on Arkham Asylum's island. It's from 2010, and I would say it's aged, visually, a little bit, although that kind of lends to its charm. And also, the main way I would say it's aged is it has kind of one of those unique control schemes. I feel like in most games nowadays, broadly speaking, we've kind of decided on what buttons should do what sorts of things. But Batman Arkham Asylum is one of those games that if you put down and walk away from for a couple of weeks and you come back, you're going to be fumbling around in the dark for a little bit while you remember how to do things, which is pretty much why I always bounced off of it, so keep that in mind. Up next, I want to recommend an oldie but a goldie, Gauntlet Dark Legacy. Dark Legacy is not the most popular Gauntlet game in the series. That probably goes to Legends, which came before it, but I've never played Legends and I don't know if it's spooky. Dark Legacy, however, is spooky in a way that doesn't take itself too seriously. It is an action-adventure game. I hesitate to call it an RPG because while you do level up, you don't really have an inventory and you don't collect gear to upgrade your attributes. It got reviews of 6 out of 10 and 7 out of 10 back in the day, but it's a solid romp, and you're just going through levels, killing zombies, breaking their spawners and stuff, and there's spooky music going on, and I think the first few levels are kind of take place in this haunted graveyard. You're probably getting an impression of the kind of game I'm talking about now when I talk about spooky, but not necessarily scary. Scary games aren't bad, but I just prefer spooky. It's a childhood favorite of mine, and I recently played it for the first time in at least a decade, and the nostalgia was real. I don't know how it might hit with someone who's never played it before, but you'll probably have a good time. Check it out. I played a PS2 version. I hear there are version differences. Apparently GameCube does have an inventory, but I don't know. I haven't played those versions. Now up next, if you're after something more arcadey than Gauntlet Dark Legacy, which is literally an arcade game as well, whatever, we could recommend Halls of Torment, which is a Vampire Survivors style game with a Diablo bent. Of course, Vampire Survivors is another excellent recommendation, but it's not the one I'm making. Halls of Torment will look very familiar to you if you have ever played Vampire Survivors, but if you have not, it's a game where you basically run around It's like a top-down view. It looks a lot like Diablo 1 specifically, but your guy does like sword strokes in front of him if you've chosen the swordsman, or shoots a bow if you chose the archer, and you aim it at your enemies. That's a difference to Vampire Survivors. You actually have to aim in this one, or you don't have to. There is an auto aim actually, but they drop XP orbs or gems, I guess, and you pick them up and you level up, and you can put those level ups into attributes and stuff to make yourself stronger. You can also pick up like these damaging spells which go off automatically as well, and you can level those up. And there's also gear which you can get from bosses, which again surprisingly enhance your attributes. And honestly, it's kind of this game which sent me down the rabbit hole of looking for other games of this similar kind of aesthetic, so maybe I should have put it earlier in the video. But it's like £5 on Steam. In fact, there's a Steam sale on right now, so I wouldn't be surprised if it was now cheaper, but it's more than worth a fiver. It's very addictive. And again, it tickles that I want to be playing a cozy, spooky game, which is just fun to play at this season itch. But of course, I did mention that it is a lot like Diablo, so we should probably mention Diablo as well. I would heavily recommend a Diablo game of your choice at this time of year. I am going to give you a quick overview of the strengths and weaknesses of each mainline Diablo game in case you've never played any of them and you're looking for one which might suit you, because they all have their strengths and weaknesses in my opinion. Diablo 1 is very old at this point. It came out I think in like 1999 or something. 1997, excuse me. And it definitely has that OG charm about it with the crunchy graphics and everything. It's also very basic. I have played it, a little bit of it anyway, and it's basically just the town of Tristram, and then you delve down into a dungeon, and that is basically the entire game, as is my understanding. And the combat is very basic as well. I'm not an expert in Diablo 1, but yeah, it's cozy because it's old, and it's got that OG charm. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it as your first Diablo game nowadays, but also there's no harm in checking it out if you're curious. I think you'd probably appreciate it more if you had experience with later Diablo games first. Diablo 2, I'm also not an expert on, so you'll have to excuse me, but I think that's the one that really nails the just spooky aesthetic, and that is what we want to get into here today. I've played a bit of Diablo 2 Resurrected, and those updated graphics are gorgeous. They are true to the original graphics of the game. I mean, it was remastered by the same people who did the original Tony Hawk's 1 and 2 remaster, and I believe the Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy, right? Vicarious Visions did both of those. And they are the undisputed masters of remasters, in my opinion, and it's kind of a shame that I don't think we're going to get any more out of them. Thanks, Blizzard. But yes, they did put them to work on Diablo 2, and they made a very charming package. I would say going into Diablo 2 for the first time nowadays, there are some gameplay design archaisms which are going to set you back in terms of like looking up guides and making sure that you're doing your build correctly and not permanently ruining it, which is my understanding that is something you can do. I personally ran into a difficulty spike, and I don't know if I was supposed to go and grind, but it's very much traditional level up, to get past a higher level area and stuff like that. But the vibes are unmatched in my opinion. It's probably most people's favorite Diablo, I want to say. I'm just basing that off of what I've seen people talk about online. It might not be the best-selling Diablo out of all of them just because the franchise has grown in popularity over time, but it's probably the most fondly remembered. Diablo 3 is the one I started with, and I love it to death. I would argue that this one perfected the gameplay loop, at least for modern audiences. It is very easy to get into and understand and appreciate, but there is also a lot of depth when it comes to becoming a higher level character and finding the right set to break the game to reach higher and higher difficulties. And it's also got my favorite endgame system with the Greater Rifts system, where you basically run through randomized endless dungeons and try and get to the end as quickly as possible to upgrade your legendary gems, to make your equipment more powerful as you slot them into it and stuff like that. It's just... it's perfect. Chef's kiss, no notes. They deviated from this in Diablo 4 to my great distaste. The one thing I do need to make you aware about with Diablo 3 though is it does lean a little bit more comic book in terms of tone, which isn't a bad thing. I actually really like that for Diablo. probably because Diablo 3 was my first. It's still dark fantasy, don't get me wrong, but it's not quite as grimdark or gothic as previous or later games. I still think it fits the theme of October perfectly, though, and I don't think you can go wrong with it these days, to be honest. It had a rough launch you might have heard about, but with Reaper of Souls onwards, it's just been a fantastic game. And finally, the latest Diablo, Diablo 4, the one a lot of people are disgruntled about. It does also have its merits, and it's the one I'm currently playing and enjoying. The briefest way to explain the strength of Diablo 4 is that it takes the kind of tones and vibes of Diablo 2, like the gothic nature of it, the grimdark nature of it, and it takes the kind of base gameplay of Diablo 3, not the endgame like I was talking about, but like how it feels to like charge down hordes of demons and cleave your way through them and get all that sparkling loot, which is quite quick to understand but has a lot of hidden depth to it. It puts those together, so it's kind of the best of two and some of the best of three in one package. It has a really fun story that kind of tries to pretend Diablo 3 doesn't exist, so I do have my gripes with that, but just as a standalone story, it has a pretty fun story, pretty fun campaign to work through there. It's not perfect, I have my gripes with it, but I think it's hard to go wrong with Diablo 4. The main thing you need to be concerned about with Diablo 4 is it is a live service game. It is going to try and sell you cosmetics. It has limited time seasons. It has FOMO in terms of, if I don't play enough of a season, I'm not going to get this cosmetic that I want. You might get sucked into that and it might not appeal to you, and I fully understand if that is the case. I've personally never really spent all that much time on that side of the game. But as a base Diablo game, if you can ignore all that other stuff, it is legitimately quite fantastic as well. I do think it's hard to go wrong with the Diablo series for this spooky season, but that's not all we're talking about today. That's just it was meant to be a brief overview of which Diablo game to choose if you've never played one. My final two recommendations for you today are going to be roguelikes, and they're a bit less overtly spooky season games, but they do, in my opinion, just match this season. Firstly, we've got Hades. Now, I've not played Hades 2. I don't know much about it. I don't know if it would still match this season, but Hades 1, you play as a guy called Zagreus who is trying to escape the underworld, which is his home. And so it's Greek mythology, and you are running through Tartarus and Asphodel and other places I'm not going to spoil. And it's quite colourful, but it's colourful in the way that the Greek mythological underworld would be, if you know what I mean. It's not necessarily spooky, but it is dark. Not necessarily in tone, but in setting. And then the other roguelike I'm going to recommend I guess I already recommended a roguelike in terms of Halls of Torment. Didn't think about that. But the final roguelike I'm going to recommend to you today is Dead Cells. I can't tell you why Dead Cells is a September/October game. It just is. It has kind of a grim, melancholic overtone to it, despite that not necessarily being the focus of the game, if you know what I mean. You are, after all, playing as a pile of cells which keep getting bundled back together into a sentient being every time you die. You are running through corridors and sewers and, castle battlements, kind of like ruined castle battlements during like the evening. It's like a vibe. How many times have I said the word vibe in today's video? Don't tell me. But it just matches this time of year perfectly, and I think that's all the recommendations I have for you, because these are all the games I've been playing recently which I feel really lend their auras to this season. There's plenty of other games which would suit this season perfectly, which would also match my kind of criteria that we established already about being spooky instead of scary, like Hollow Knight, I'm sure, the Castlevania games in general, but I wanted to give you kind of a focused set of games that I've been playing lately that I can really point to and say, this fucks with October. This vibes with the current season outside my window. The trees are turning yellow and orange, and I am inside and I'm playing these games. And they make me feel cozy and happy and warm because they are spooky, and I love that. And so hopefully I've given you some things to chew on. It's not like we necessarily need to go out of our way to find game recommendations, so I don't know how well this video is going to do. We do live in an absolute embarrassment of riches in terms of games which are available to us. Death's Door is another one that would probably fit really well. Now I kind of want to load up Death's Door. No, I am finishing Arkham Asylum. That is what I am doing with my month. Let me know if you have any recommendations down below. Let me know if you liked this kind of video, which I don't do very often. I don't know why I'm talking like this. And cheers for tuning in to something a little bit different, a little bit new. Catch you in whatever I make next.